What exactly does it mean to clerk for a judge? What is that?
It's kind of like you're the right-hand person of that judge. Like they say jump, you say how high. If they need any kind of research done, they need really any real work. Let's be honest. That the judge, is obviously the more experienced, like well-versed person. But if they have some kind of case coming up and they need, to be well-versed in the subject, they need an opinion drafted. You do the legwork and they look it over and tweak it how they like,
Hmm,
and go from there. You're kind of the mover and the shaker to the judge's thought process.
gotcha. So you're obviously a barred attorney at this time.
Yeah.
Does the judge also have like a paralegal or non-attorney support staff?
Yeah, yeah. So, in my experience, and with a lot of other people I know that clerked, general dynamic is uh, there's the judge, there's their clerk, and then there's they usually call them like a JA or like an administrative assistant,
Okay.
and that person handles the clerical duties, answering phones, filing things, that kind of thing. Sort of to equate it to like the dynamics of a law firm, the judge is like the senior partner, the clerk is the associate,
Okay.
and the JA or administrative assistant would be like the paralegal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Um, so you said you're doing most of the legwork, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So does that mean obviously that comes down to writing opinions as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, it's what a lot of the job is. It's research, drafting. I mean, really any kind of, I don't know, any kind of work that the judge may not want to take an initial stab at, but
Right.
just kind of wants to provide their thoughts and opinions on later. But the clerk is generally the one that does a lot of the work that the judge will end up ultimately using to operate in court.
Okay. So I want to know how that process works because we have, obviously the importance of opinions, right? You're making law, you know.
Sure.
So as the clerk, are you just providing kind of the research and the skeleton of the opinion, and then the judge fills it
Yeah,
in?
no, I mean, I think it's like anything else, it varies on the person. So, like in my instance, my judge was very hands-on, really handled a lot of things herself. But I don't know, like I remember working on a case that involved like it was, gosh, what was it? It was like a collections related thing. Essentially they were trying to reach a figure.
Hmm.
So I mean, it was some research, and you're only going to learn so much, in your limited research compared to a judge who's probably been on the bench for and at least practicing in the legal field, significantly longer than you have. Like in my case, my judge was, practiced for decades and then has been a judge for decades.
Right.
So
Right. Interesting. Yeah, because I've always wondered, and obviously you know, it's always fun to see like the personality of judges
yeah,
in their opinions.
that's very it. You can see it in the opinions, and you can see it in just kind of everyday like operations. Like they vary really really greatly. There's some that are very very laid back, but then when they take the bench, they're fierce. And there's some where that kind of, if they are relaxed, it kind of persist the whole time, and there's some that never seem to calm down on or off the bench. So I mean, it's like anyone else,
Yeah.
but it's just pretty interesting how judges, with just how important of figures they are, how that carries over. They're just like people. It's pretty funny
Right.
when you think about like just how important of things they're doing, and then like they'll get off the bench and just say casual things like you'd be thinking, and you're just like, well, okay, like obviously that can't be written down, but no, I mean it's I don't know. I guess in a way it kind of gives you perspective because it makes you think like, wow, like they're just like regular people, like
Right.
very smart, very experienced, well versed people, but like it's like it's not out of the realms of possibility that you or I could be that one day, or anyone who really aspires to be one, as long as they are capable and work towards it, which is kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you did that right after passing the bar,
Yep.
right? Do you recommend?
Well, actually, because of COVID, it was like I started before even taking the bar exam. Yeah, just weird. Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you recommend that attorneys, you know, take that step? Like shortly after passing the bar.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's a good thing.
Mhm.
I think it really depends. I can't say that it's something that you have to do or should do necessarily, but like you make a lot of good connections. So I think if you have an idea of where or maybe even what type of field you'd like to practice, assuming you want to practice,
Hmm.
not everyone that goes to law school has practice, but let's assume you do. It's a great way to make connections. I know a ton of people who they got their first practicing jobs, their first jobs, actual attorneys, from the connections they made while clerking for judges.
Okay.
Whether it was people that their judges knew, or maybe people they meet in practicing. Because that's a great thing is you get to get exposed to everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
even now, if I'm in the right circles, I'll walk around and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm so and so. I worked for this judge during this time period." They'll be like, "Oh, I know you," and I didn't even know this person. It'll be like someone who like I knew by name or like over an email or something like that. But you serve an important person, so they'll remember you
Right.
because yeah.
That's awesome. And so I'm guessing you got to actually sit in these trials and see many attorneys.
Yeah, I got to sit in a few of them, a lot of different hearings. COVID kind of put a wrench into that
I'm
because
sure.
for a while it was like everything was done Zoom,
Right.
which was really weird. So it'd be like, yeah, court's starting, and you'd just be sitting there, over Zoom.
Right.
Um, Even conference calls. They did some things that were like essentially conference calls, like no video, just like a bunch of people calling in,
Huh.
which was really weird. But yeah, no, that's kind of what the benefit of being a clerk is. Like you're not going to make as much money as you would practicing, but it's a lot lower stress. You get the government benefits, which is
Right.
cool, but you really get to learn that's what it is. You get to sit there and you get to, because in a practical sense, being an attorney is really still learning by doing
Hmm.
more than because in law school they just teach you about the law and they teach you how to think like a lawyer. Then you get out day one, you're like, yeah, I'm ready to practice, and then you're like, shit, like how do I actually, what is the actual step of doing this? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like I know I have to do this, but I have no idea how.
Right.
You know, it's all theory up to that point, and then you get to see people do it, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how they do it. So
Mm.
then you get a little bit more of an edge, I think, when you happen to practice in. Of course, in my case, I don't know if it really helped because I went into transactional work, so it's not like I was sitting in court every day watching people draft contracts.
Right.